The moment everyone thought the battle was over, Karoline Leavitt just changed the game again, but this time it wasn't just about her after her first lawsuit sent shockwaves through the View, exposing behind-the-scenes chaos and triggering a firestorm of backlash. Many thought she had made her point. No one expected her to come back even stronger, but that's exactly what just happened. Breaking news: Karoline Leavitt has just filed another lawsuit against The View, and this time the stakes are even higher. Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar and the rest of the panel believed they had weathered the storm. They thought their damage control had worked, that the controversy would slowly fade away. They were dead wrong, because Karoline isn't just back. She's back with something far more powerful than before. For years she had watched the media twist narratives, bury stories and ruin reputations. She knew this fight wasn't just about clearing her name, it was about justice. What many don't know is that Karoline has a history with The View, one that goes deeper than just being a conservative commentator on their show. Years ago, someone close to her had been caught in The View's web of media manipulation. Someone who had once trusted the system only to have their reputation torn apart on national television. That someone was her closest friend, a journalist, a whistleblower, someone who had dared to challenge the powerful, and The View had made sure their voice was silenced. This time Karoline isn't just seeking damages. She's seeking accountability. What exactly is she accusing The View of now? How are the hosts reacting behind the scenes, and could this be the moment that finally brings the entire show down? Buckle up, because this just turned into the biggest legal battle in daytime TV history. If The View thought they had seen the worst of Karoline Leavitt, they were in for a rude awakening. Her first lawsuit was already a bombshell, but this new legal action, it's even more explosive. ACC, according to inside sources, Karoline's second lawsuit alleges that The View engaged in defamation, workplace harassment, and most damning of all, systematic manipulation of public perception through aid-driven media control. This time she isn't just accusing The View of smearing her reputation, she's exposing an entire system designed to silence voices like hers. Her legal team has uncovered evidence that goes far beyond just false narratives in a shocking revelation. Leaked internal emails and confidential tech reports suggest that ABC has been utilizing artificial intelligence and automated algorithms to suppress negative content about The View while amplifying favorable coverage. Karoline claims that her lawsuit isn't just about what was said on air, it's about how her voice was deliberately erased from the digital space. The court documents reportedly contain damning evidence, including emails, text messages, and whistleblower testimonies proving that ABC's media division used AI-powered sentiment analysis tools to downgrade articles and social media posts criticizing The View so they wouldn't appear on trending pages, push false narratives by manipulating engagement metrics, making positive stories about The View go viral while bearing negative ones, blacklist conservative commentators from major platforms by flagging their content as problematic using automated moderation tools. But that's not all. Karoline lawsuit reveals a network of secret agreements between ABC executives and third-party tech firms, showing that The View's influence stretched far beyond its own show. Her legal team is now seeking multimillion-dollar damages, arguing that this isn't just a case of defamation, it's a calculated high-tech character assassination, and the lawsuit doesn't just demand a public apology, it threatens to financially the network. If Karoline wins, The View could be looking at a massive payout, potentially shaking up the entire future of the show. ABC executives are reportedly in full-blown crisis mode, scrambling to figure out how to respond to this new legal nightmare, because this isn't just a lawsuit, this is a direct attack on the entire credibility of The View, and the worst part, they never saw it coming. The moment the news of Karoline Leavitt's second lawsuit broke, the set of The View turned into absolute chaos. The host had no idea this was coming, but the lawsuit wasn't the only reason for their panic. Minutes after the lawsuit made headlines, an anonymous hacker on Twitter dropped something even bigger, a leaked behind-the-scenes audio recording from an internal ABC meeting. And what it revealed, it was far worse than anyone could have imagined, according to sources inside the studio. Whoopi Goldberg was the first to hear the news, getting a frantic call from an ABC executive just minutes before stepping onto the set. She reported froze in disbelief before storming off to her dressing room, demanding to know Seriously, how did this happen again? Joy Behar, on the other hand, was in complete denial. She brushed it off at first, assuming it was just a desperate stunt from Karoline meant to generate headlines, but then she opened Twitter, trending at first place. The View exposed the leaked audio was already spreading like wildfire, and within minutes news outlets had picked it up, and just like that, Joy's smug confidence turned into quiet panic, because this wasn't just a lawsuit anymore, this was a full-blown scandal that proved what conservatives had been accusing The View of for years. Then the real meltdown began. During a pre-show meeting, heated arguments erupted between the host. Sonny Tin reportedly confronted the producers, demanding to know why they weren't warned about the leak. Alyssa Farah Griffin, who had already clashed with her co-hosts over the treatment of conservatives, stayed eerily silent. She knew exactly where this was headed. Sarah Haynes kept checking her phone as if hoping for some kind of PR miracle to make this go away. Meanwhile, the producers were scrambling behind the scenes. Emails were flying, phones were ringing non-stop, and legal advisors were rushing to draft a response before the media could spin the lawsuit even further out of control. But then came the real nightmare, and it had nothing to do with Karoline's lawsuit. A cryptic message appeared on Twitter from an anonymous hacker known as Ghost Signal, hinting that they had access to internal ABC emails that could prove the View had engaged in media manipulation far beyond just attacking Karoline. Within minutes, the producers received an encrypted email from an unknown sender. The subject line, "TikTok, it's all coming out." Attached was a screenshot of an email chain between ABC executives discussing how they had worked behind the scenes with social media platforms to suppress negative coverage about the View. It was worse than they had imagined. This wasn't just about silencing Karoline. The emails hinted at a coordinated effort to bury multiple scandals, from covering up internal harassment allegations to blacklisting outspoken guests who didn't align with the network's agenda. ABC executives were livid. The network had already spent weeks trying to put out fires from Karoline's first lawsuit, now with another massive legal battle looming. Higher-ups were starting to ask even bigger questions. Did the host go too far? Has The View become a liability? How many more secrets are about to be exposed? And the most terrifying part, they still had no idea what Karoline had up her sleeve next. Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar, the two most outspoken hosts on The View, were in full-blown crisis mode. But this time it wasn't just about the lawsuit. Something else was happening, something that made Whoopi's blood boil even more. One of their own might be turning against them. The moment Whoopi left the stage after filming that day's episode, she reportedly slammed her dressing room door shut so hard that staff members in the hallway flinched. She refused to speak to anyone for nearly an hour, pacing back and forth, phone in hand, making frantic calls to her legal team. When she finally did speak, her anger was undeniable. "Are you kidding me again?" Again, she demanded to know who had let this happen. She blamed ABC's legal team for not shutting this down sooner. She blamed the show's producers for not keeping her informed, but most of all she blamed Karoline Leavitt, and perhaps even more furiously, a member of their own panel who had reportedly been in contact with Karoline's camp, Alyssa Farah Griffin. For months, Alyssa had been at odds with her co-hosts over how The View treated conservative voices, but now rumors were swirling that she was considering publicly supporting Karoline and possibly even leaving the show altogether. For Whoopi, this was a betrayal beyond words. "Does she have any idea what she's doing?" she reportedly yelled at one of the producers. "We gave her a seat at this table, and this is how she repays us." She then launched into a tirade slamming Karoline as dangerous, vindictive, and out to destroy the show. But deep down, she wasn't just angry, she was terrified, because this wasn't just bad press, this was a legal disaster, and now it was starting to feel like The View was crumbling from the inside. Meanwhile, Joy Behar was just as shaken, but in a very different way. At first she laughed it off, rolling her eyes and waving a dismissive hand. "Oh please, another lawsuit, this girl just loves attention." But then she got a call, not from a producer, not from a legal advisor, from a top executive at one of The View's biggest sponsors, and the message was brutal: "We're pulling our ads." Effective immediately. For years, The View had thrived on controversy, always managing to turn negative press into high ratings, but this was different. A lawsuit was one thing, losing corporate Money was another. Joy's confidence started to crack as she skimmed through her phone, watching emails flood in. More sponsors were re-evaluating their partnerships, and some were even quietly pulling out before the scandal got worse. She started making frantic phone calls demanding answers from ABC executives. "How long are we supposed to put up with this?" she was overheard venting to producers. "She's making a career out of coming after us, and now we're the ones paying for it, literally." But when she learned that ABC's legal team wasn't confident about how to handle this case, that's when reality hit her. By the end of the day, Joy reportedly stormed out of the building, telling staffers, "I swear if we lose this one, I'm done." Between Whoopi's rage and Joy's panic, one thing was clear: for the first time they weren't just dealing with backlash, they were dealing with real consequences, and with the lawsuit already making headlines, it was only a matter of time before the View's biggest crisis yet went from internal panic to public humiliation the moment news of Karoline Leavitt's lawsuit hit the press. ABC's corporate offices were thrown into absolute chaos. Phone lines lit up, emails flooded inboxes, and executives were pulled from their meetings, called into an emergency strategy session that lasted well into the night. This wasn't just another controversy, this was a full-blown legal and corporate crisis. But it was about to get even worse, just as ABC's top brass was trying to contain the fallout. A mysterious post appeared on Twitter from an anonymous hacker known only as Ghost Signal. They silenced guests, they rigged narratives, they thought no one would notice. Guess what we did? Within minutes the post went viral, then a second post followed, this time with a blurred-out screenshot of what appeared to be an internal ABC email chain discussing the suppression of damaging stories in the past. And suddenly the crisis wasn't just about Karoline anymore. ABC's lawyers knew they had a problem. Karoline's lawsuit wasn't vague, it wasn't baseless, it was strategic, methodical, and packed with enough evidence to shake the network's entire foundation. But now, with a hacker threatening to release even more internal emails, ABC was looking at something far worse than a single lawsuit. They were facing a digital ticking time bomb inside the war room at ABC headquarters. Executives were scrambling for solutions. One senior VP reportedly slammed his fist on the table, demanding answers. "How the hell did we let it get this far?" The legal team's response: "Because no one took her seriously, and now it's too late to ignore her." Damage control plans were drafted immediately. Step 1: issue a generic statement downplaying the lawsuit. Step 2: instruct the View host to avoid discussing it on air at all costs. Step 3: quietly reach out to Karoline's team to see if a private settlement was even an option. But there was one major problem: Karoline wasn't backing down. When a representative from ABC reached out to her legal team, the response was short and brutal: "Karoline has nothing to say to you, we'll see you in court." That's when the real panic started, because ABC executives knew exactly what was coming: more media coverage, more internal leaks, more public scrutiny than they had ever faced before. And now it wasn't just a lawsuit, it was a war for survival. For the first time, ABC wasn't just dealing with bad press. They were at risk of losing complete control of the narrative, and with Karoline standing firm, refusing to back down, it was only a matter of time before this crisis turned into a full-blown corporate nightmare. The moment the lawsuit became public, the internet exploded like wildfire. Within minutes, Karoline Leavitt's name was everywhere, but this time it wasn't just a political firestorm, it was something far bigger. While conservative influencers wasted no time ripping into ABC and The View, something else was happening. Tech analysts and media watchdogs started digging deeper, and what the UNC covered, it sent shockwaves through the industry. A series of leaks began circulating online revealing that ABC had been using AI-driven content moderation tools to filter, suppress, and manipulate public perception of their scandals. One viral tweet broke it down: "It's not just about Karoline anymore. ABC has been using AIM to manipulate trending topics, bury negative coverage, and amplify positive spin." Within hours, leaked internal emails were being shared, emails that detailed how ABC executives coordinated with social media platforms to downrank critical content and inflate engagement on damage control posts. And then a whistleblower stepped forward. An alleged former ABC digital strategy consultant came forward on Reddit claiming that ABC had a dedicated team for suppressing negative press through automated algorithms. The View had flagged specific conservative commentators to be shadow banned whenever they criticized the show. Internal reports showed that negative engagement on The View's content was artificially reduced to maintain advertiser interest. By midday, the lawsuit wasn't just trending, it had become a scandal of corporate censorship and media manipulation. By nightfall, independent journalists were launching their own investigations, trying to determine just how deep ABC's influence had gone. Liberal media scrambled to contain the fallout, calling the lawsuit a coordinated attack by right-wing operatives. CNN downplayed it, dismissing the tech leaks as conspiracy theories with no merit. MSNBC ran segments claiming Karoline was weaponizing misinformation to discredit mainstream media, but the problem, the public wasn't buying it. People weren't just reacting to headlines anymore, they were reading the leaked emails themselves. They were analyzing the AI moderation reports. They were watching media manipulation unfold in real time, and the verdict, the people were siding with Karoline. Comment sections were brutal. ABC thought they could control the narrative. Now the receipts are out. This isn't just about The View, this is about how media companies manipulate what we see. I never cared about The View before, but now this scandal is bigger than them. Then came the memes, a photoshopped image of Whoopi Goldberg holding a sign, caution lawsuit incoming, a clip of Joy Behar fake laughing, caption Joy when she realizes AI can't save her this time, an edited picture of ABC's headquarters engulfed in digital flames with a glitching AI moderation error sign flickering over the entrance. By nightfall, independent investigators were tracking ABC's past censorship patterns, connecting dots between news stories that had mysteriously disappeared over the years. By the end of the week, it was no longer just about Karoline, it was about the integrity of digital media itself and ABC. They were losing the battle. No amount of spin, damage control, or PR tricks could stop the storm, because the internet had already chosen its side, and this time it wasn't with The View. As the lawsuit continued to gain traction, one question loomed over everything: can The View survive this? For years the show had weathered controversies, firings, and waves of public backlash, but nothing had prepared them for what was happening now. ABC executives weren't just worried about the lawsuit or the negative headlines, they were terrified about losing major sponsors inside the executive suites at ABC headquarters. The phones wouldn't stop ringing. Advertisers, the lifeblood of daytime television, were already getting nervous, but then came the call. ABC feared most. A senior executive at one of the network's largest sponsors, a company whose ads brought millions of dollars annually, reached out personally to ABC's top brass. The message couldn't have been clearer: fix this, or we're done. That sponsor's ultimatum triggered a domino effect. Suddenly executives were forced into frantic meetings behind closed doors. Sources reported shouting matches, intense confrontations, as ABC leaders furiously demanded accountability from The View's producers and hosts. Several major advertisers quietly paused their contracts, pulling commercials temporarily until ABC proved they could handle the scam. Others openly questioned whether their brand was safe alongside the show's increasingly toxic reputation. Inside ABC headquarters, panic was growing. Rumors of a major shakeup began circulating, with some executives openly arguing that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar had finally gone too far. Senior leaders debated fiercely: how much longer do we tolerate this? Have these hosts become a liability? Is protecting their image worth loss? Losing the show itself? Longtime viewers who once passionately defended Whoopi and Joy were now reconsidering their loyalty online. Forums and comment sections were flooded with once loyal fans admitting they could no longer support a show accused of systematic dishonesty in media manipulation. Whoopi and Joy publicly shrugged off the rumors, dismissing the situation as just another media cycle, but privately their anxiety was undeniable. Staffers noted how Joy had suddenly become withdrawn, while Whoopi's behind-the-scenes outbursts grew more frequent, because deep down both knew the truth. The writing was on the wall. This wasn't just a temporary PR crisis, this was existential, and the one person responsible for putting them in this situation, Karoline Leavitt, because at this point it wasn't just about Karoline's lawsuit, it was about whether The View and even ABC itself could survive at all. As the lawsuit sent shockwaves through the media landscape, everyone was waiting to hear from Karoline Leavitt. Would she negotiate? Would she agree to a quiet settlement? Would she give ABC the chance to control the damage? The answer was a resounding no. Instead of retreating, Karoline escalated the fight. She had spent too much time watching powerful media figures distort the truth, suppress opposing voices, and manipulate narratives without ever facing consequences. Now she was forcing them to be held accountable, and she was about to drop her most devastating demand yet. At a press event that same week, Karoline stepped in front of the cameras, held up a document, and issued a challenge that no one saw coming. ABC keeps insisting they have nothing to hide. If that's true, I have a simple request: release every internal email related to this case. Let the public see exactly how The View in ABC operate behind closed doors. Silence. In that moment, ABC executives knew they were trapped. If they refused, it would look like they were hiding something. If they agreed, it could unravel everything. Karoline's statement wasn't just a demand, it was a declaration of war, and within hours the pressure intensified. A high-profile non-profit organization dedicated to media transparency publicly backed Karoline, announcing that their legal team was now involved. The public deserves the truth. If ABC won't release these documents voluntarily, we will fight to make sure they are revealed in court. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Social media erupted. Conservative commentators called it the moment corporate media finally gets exposed. They've been manipulating the narrative for years now. The walls are closing in on them. Meanwhile, ABC was spiraling. Liberal media outlets scrambled to downplay the situation. CNN accused Karoline of attacking journalistic integrity. MSNBC claimed she was endangering free speech. But the problem, Karoline didn't need billionaires. She had the truth on her side. The leaked documents, they spoke for themselves. The court filings, the evidence was overwhelming. And then, just when ABC thought things couldn't get worse, a conservative news outlet released an explosive audio recording. It was a leaked behind-the-scenes meeting at ABC headquarters. In the recording, an executive could be heard panicking over the fallout, admitting what they had feared all along: we should have never let this escalate. This lawsuit could expose more than just The View. If she pushes forward, it could pull back the curtain on how we handle these situations internally. Boom. It wasn't just about The View anymore. It wasn't even just about ABC. This was a full-blown media reckoning, and Karoline wasn't done. At her next public appearance, she looked straight into the cameras and said, "This lawsuit is about more than just me. It's about transparency, it's about accountability, and it's about holding the media to the same standards they try to impose on everyone else." The audience erupted in applause. The internet exploded, and ABC, they had no response because Karoline wasn't just suing them, she was putting their entire empire on trial, and for the first time they had no way out. With The View drowning in controversy and ABC executives scrambling to contain the fallout, Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar had a choice to make. Would they stay silent and let Karoline Leavitt's lawsuit dominate the headlines, or would they fight back and try to regain control of the narrative? They chose the latter, and it turned out to be one of the biggest mistakes of their careers. The very next episode of The View opened with a tense defensive energy instead of calmly addressing the controversy. Whoopi tried to dismiss it outright. "I just want to say something real quick," Whoopi began, her voice noticeably strained. "This whole thing, it's ridiculous. We've always been about open discussions. We welcome all viewpoints." Joy Behar jumped in immediately, scoffing, leaning forward aggressively in her chair. "Oh, please, let's be honest, this is just a political stunt. Karoline Leavitt and her supporters just can't handle strong women speaking their minds, so they throw lawsuits around and pretend they're victims." The audience clapped, but something felt off. Maybe it was the awkward pauses between their words, maybe it was the slight crack in Joy's voice betraying underlying anxiety, or maybe it was because the public had finally seen through their act. Then came the critical era. Confidently smirking, Whoopi added, "And let me remind everyone, we have never censored anybody, we've never silenced guests or manipulated narratives. That's just not who we are." Boom. Within minutes of that claim, social media exploded, not with support but with an avalanche of receipts that contradicted Whoopi's statement. Twitter users quickly resurfaced a viral video clip showing Whoopi herself angrily walking off the set, effectively shutting down a guest. Mid-debate, YouTubers shared montages of Joy aggressively cutting off conservative guests, refusing to let them finish their points. Political commentators highlighted leaked emails that clearly proved ABC had actively blocked certain conservative commentators from appearing on the show. The internet had caught them in a lie, and it spread like wildfire. Another viral video titled "The View Lies Exposed in Real Time" reached millions within as systematically breaking down every contradiction between their statements and their actions instead of regaining control. Whoopi and Joy's attempt to dismiss Karoline's claims had backfired spectacularly. They hadn't just failed, they'd provided undeniable evidence of exactly what Karoline was accusing them of: hypocrisy and dishonesty. By evening, even neutral observers admitted it openly. Whoopi and Joy didn't just lose today's PR battle, they lost all credibility, and with that they didn't just hand Karoline ammunition for her lawsuit, instead they just handed Karoline the biggest victory of her career. At first ABC stayed quiet, hoping the backlash would die down, but when social media continued replaying clips of Whoopi and Joy's disastrous attempt to discredit Karoline, the network executives had no choice but to step in. Behind closed doors, the tension at ABC was palpable. Internal emails leaked by anonymous insiders revealed executives were furious, describing Whoopi and Joy's behavior as reckless and unacceptable. One senior executive's leaked message was blunt: "They've completely lost control. We need immediate damage control or we risk permanent brand damage." Executives initially instructed Whoopi and Joy to tread carefully, to stay quiet and avoid inflaming the controversy further. Instead, they doubled down, making things worse, facing intense pressure from advertisers, viewers and shareholders. ABC took drastic action in an unprecedented move. The network announced that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar would be temporarily suspended from The View effective immediately. The statement from ABC was carefully worded but brutally clear. The recent statements by Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar do not reflect the standards of ABC News. Both hosts will be temporarily stepping back from the show while we evaluate our next steps. The fallout was immediate and explosive. ABC quickly removed the controversial episode from all streaming platforms and scrubbed the problematic segment from The View's official YouTube channel, desperately trying to limit further damage. But ironically, ABC's swift action only proved Karoline's point further. For years, Whoopi and Joy had dominated political debates, interrupting guests, dismissing opposing viewpoints and silencing conservative voices. They believed their influence and popularity would always protect them from consequences. This time they were wrong by suspending their two most influential hosts. ABC admitted something they had previously denied, that Karoline's accusations were valid, that there was genuine wrongdoing, that accountability was finally unavoidable, and now the very women who had tried to silence Karoline were themselves silenced, unable to control the narrative, unable to spin the truth, unable to simply talk their way out of it. In a spectacular twist of irony, ABC's drastic actions had done what no statement ever could. They literally proved Karoline's entire point in real time. It was official: Whoopi and Joy's attempt to fight back had completely backfired. What had started as a defiant attempt to dismiss Karoline Leavitt's lawsuit as just another political stunt had now turned into an unprecedented crisis, one that was rapidly spiraling out of control. Behind closed doors, ABC executives were holding emergency meetings, desperately trying to find a way out of the chaos their own host had created. But the situation was deteriorating rapidly, and it wasn't just about public perception. More major advertisers, the financial backbone of the show, were now taking action. Several corporate sponsors, including one of ABC's largest partners, had privately informed the network they were considering terminating their advertising contracts entirely if the scandal wasn't resolved quickly for ABC. This was devastating news. The network had always tolerated the controversies generated by Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar, believing that controversy drove ratings, but now controversy was becoming a liability financially and reputationally. Executives were beginning to question the very foundation of their strategy. Panic turned into outright fear. Rumors spread quickly through the halls of ABC headquarters. Sources claimed that drastic measures were being discussed openly for the first time ever. Then came yet another damaging leak, an internal memo from ABC's chief marketing officer explicitly stating the View has officially become a liability. Either this stops now or we need to seriously reconsider the future of the show. Whoopi and Joy initially brushed off the leaks, assuming their seniority and fame made them untouchable, but as reality sank in, their attitude shifted dramatically. Staff reported seeing Joy visibly shaken after meetings with executives, while Whoopi's famously tough demeanor became increasingly defensive and erratic. "I've built this show," Whoopi was overheard shouting behind closed doors. "If they think they can throw me under the bus to please some sponsors, they've got another thing coming." But the truth was undeniable: their influence was fading fast. Viewership was declining rapidly. Longtime fans who had once stood firmly behind Whoopi and Joy were abandoning the show, disillusioned by revelations of deliberate misinformation, targeted harassment, and systematic censorship of opposing viewpoints. Conservative audiences, energized by Karoline's battle, actively campaigned for the View's cancellation, calling it the perfect example of mainstream media hypocrisy finally facing accountability. And then came the tipping point. A major conservative media outlet released even more internal ABC emails, proving beyond doubt that executives had long known about and quietly condoned the host's misconduct. In those emails, ABC's top brass openly acknowledged that keeping Whoopi and Joy meant accepting continuous controversies and risking their corporate reputation. At that moment, executives realized they were facing an impossible choice: continue protecting their star host and watch their network burn, or cut ties, hoping it wasn't already too late. What had begun as an attempt by Whoopi and Joy to silence Karoline Leavitt had spectacularly backfired, forcing ABC into an existential crisis. For the first time ever, ABC wasn't just facing bad publicity, they were facing complete collapse, and it was clear to everyone watching ABC had lost control of the narrative. The View's hosts were in full panic mode behind closed doors. Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar were no longer the confident, defiant figures audiences knew. They were shaken, uncertain, and for the first time genuinely afraid. ABC executives had spent years relying on controversy to boost ratings, convinced that negative headlines were just part of the game. But Karoline Leavitt's lawsuit had exposed something far deeper: systematic media manipulation, censorship through artificial intelligence, and deliberate suppression of opposing viewpoints. And now the network found itself cornered, unable to deny or dismiss the allegations any longer. As corporate sponsors began to withdraw their funding, the financial losses mounted. Longtime advertisers, once proud to support the show, were quietly distancing themselves. Ratings plummeted, public trust crumbled, and internal chaos reached unprecedented levels. But ABC's biggest fear wasn't just losing money, it was losing control of the narrative completely. For the first time, internal discussions at ABC openly considered the unthinkable: removing Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar from the air, or even cancelling the show entirely. Industry insiders whispered that the View, once untouchable, had become a toxic liability that no advertiser wanted to touch. Meanwhile, Karoline continued to gain momentum, supported publicly by influential legal nonprofits, conservative influencers, and countless viewers demanding transparency. She had turned a personal lawsuit into a national reckoning on media accountability. Social media buzzed. Relentlessly conservative influencers declared victory, posting memes predicting the show's demise. Even liberal media figures began questioning openly if ABC had finally gone too far. Audiences were tuning in not to support The View but to watch its potential downfall. The show's ratings briefly surged, but not in the way ABC hoped. It was like spectators crowding around a burning building, drawn by the spectacle rather than loyalty. Whoopi and Joy continued publicly insisting everything was under control, but privately they knew better. They could sense it: something had fundamentally shifted. Their days of immunity from accountability were gone. Staffers noticed how tense they had become, how their casual confidence had vanished, replaced by silent dread every time their phones buzzed with notifications. Then, just as ABC scrambled to stabilize the situation, another blow struck. A non-profit legal organization known for holding powerful media accountable publicly declared his full support for Karoline, promising to fund and assist her legal fight. With this backing, Karoline had the resources and credibility to drag ABC's darkest secrets into the spotlight, no matter how long it took or how painful it became. ABC had faced scandals before, but never had the network faced this level of public scrutiny. Their reputation was hemorrhaging, sponsors were leaving, and their once loyal viewers were walking away. They were trapped now as ABC executives watched helplessly. The question was no longer whether Karoline Leavitt had a case, it was whether their iconic daytime show could survive the storm she had unleashed. The only certainty left was uncertainty itself. Would ABC sacrifice Whoopi and Joy to save the show? Would they attempt another desperate round of damage control, or had Karoline's relentless pursuit of transparency finally broken the powerful media machine that thought it was untouchable? The final question hung heavy over the entire media landscape. Would The View survive this scandal, or was this the beginning of the end? And the one thing that terrified ABC the most was that the answer no longer depended on them. It depended entirely on Karoline Leavitt. Stay tuned.